Hi and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be making this crochet with knitting pieces made on the Centro machine or Addi if you have it. And I'll be explaining first how to make this beautiful granny square that I'm going to put on the description below. It's a separate video, okay? And then, so to make this top, what I used was, I had to use a hook, 4.5 millimeters hook to make each granny square on the right size. And then I used for this top here, the Red Heart Super Saver Templar yarn acrylic, okay? You can be using any Templar acrylic you want. And I had to use 500 grams of the black and 100 grams of the other color, which is white. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to explain is how to join and make the granny squares, and then we are going to the panels, okay? And on my pattern I have everything explained of how to make and how to size it, for all the way from extra small to extra large, okay? To make this sweater, what we're gonna need after we made the granny squares, so we're gonna need 8 of these granny squares, 4 starting with the white color if you're making white and black, and 4 starting with the black, so you have the opposite composition like this. And so it's gonna be 8. 4 of them you're gonna seam like this, so it's in a tube, okay? And this is because we're gonna put on the arm, on the sleeve like this. So I also made 2 sleeves on the tube mold of my machine, okay? Now in the pattern I'm gonna share how to make this sleeve smaller if you are an extra small or small, because then you need to work on the panel mold, okay? For these sleeves on the tube mold, they are good for the medium size and the large size, still okay. Okay, extra large you also have to work in tubes to get a bigger tube. If you need this tube, I made on my Addi machine, okay? If you use the Centro, you get 2 extra pins, which makes a difference in knitting. And so if you're making a large, maybe use your Centro machine instead. So I made 2 sleeves with 80 rows for this size medium, which is for me, okay? So make it there 2 sleeves, 2 tubes with 80 rows, okay? And then I'm gonna show you how to attach here and remove the waste yarn from the bottom, okay? We're gonna attach the crochet on this side, and on this one we're gonna leave it open to seam straight from here to the body of our sweater, okay? And here is the sweater itself, the body, okay? I already put together 2 of them, so 4 of the squares you're gonna only seam in one side, because you're not making a tube, they're gonna sit flat here. So we can seam with the panels on the other side. So I made 2 panels, and they're going to be long enough to go all the way to the other side of the body of this sweater, okay? So the first thing we need to do is, after we finish our square, the first square, we can make one of the sleeves, because the sleeves, they don't change much in size, okay? But this part of the body will change in size. So you want to figure out how many rows there is in a granny square, because after you know the rows, you can multiply by 4, because you're gonna have 2 of these on the front and 2 on the back, and then add a few more stitches for this part here. That's where we're gonna make the neck of it. So you need to have around 30 rows here, so there's space for the shoulder and the neck, okay? So yeah, that's about it. So I'm gonna show you now how I did that and how I'm going to put it all together, and how many so for this I have made 180 rows for these 2 panels here for my size, okay, and for my granny square size as well. So I'm gonna be sharing with you on the description below the gauge for this sweater, and also the size of the square and how the number of rows that I had for each square, okay? This is gonna be on the description below. But also, if you wanna purchase my pattern on Etsy or on knittingmachinepatterns.com, it's gonna be there as well. And there I'm gonna calculate the exact size you need from extra small to extra large, and the numbers of stitches and everything, okay? So that's gonna be there. And I'd like to say that it helps me a lot if you purchase my pattern, just so I can get some more yarn to make more patterns. So thank you for that, and let's get into it now. So the first thing I did was join the bottom of the sleeve, which is these 2 grannies on a tube, with the part that has the waste yarn, because the other side here that I cast off from the machine at the end, I'm going to join at the end with the side panels, okay, of the body. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this yarn here that I have left from the tail of my sleeve. I'm going to put on this side of the granny. So what you want to do is to grab these here, always, and then to the other side, and then to the next stitch, which is here. So it's similar to a graft stitch, and just joining the crochet. So I'm gonna join all these, okay, and then remove the waste yarn. I'm gonna put a drawing of this stitch, so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing here. And if you wanna place a marker, make sure when you reach the middle of this one is in the middle of that one as well, okay? That's the main thing about it. So before you finish and make the knot here, just make sure remove this waste yarn first. Okay, so I have my 2 sleeves here, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to seam the body as well. So for the body, this is the drawing that I have. I'm going to still make ribbing here on the top and on the bottom as well, because this is a bit short, okay? So I'm gonna close it with a ribbing. So to start seaming this part here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this at the end here, and as you can see I have a few rows here in the middle that I'm going to use for the neck, okay? And so to calculate this, what I did was, let's say this is the square, is the same square, okay? I placed the square on top, like exactly what it is now, this one actually. So I placed on the top of my knitted part of my knitted panel, and I counted the number of stitches that I had for one square only, okay? And so after I knew how many rows I had for each square, which was 36, I think. Anyway, you multiply by 4, and this is to know the size of the panel, okay? You multiply by 4 because it's gonna be 4 squares, and plus you measure on yourself and you see how much you need for your shoulder, okay? I think I added around 35, 40 for the shoulder part here. And so I knew when I finished seaming both of the squares on each side, I would have this number of rows left here that would be enough to fit my head through, okay? So now I'm going to place markers to seam this perfectly. And what I like to do is actually place a marker on each one of them so I know I'm on the right place. So try to unfold this. Put exactly on the beginning of the row here. And then you don't need to place a marker on the squares. Just make sure when you reach this part of the square, you're gonna be on this part of the panel. And you can even count the number of rows if you want to make it really perfect, okay? I don't do that because I'm happy with just seaming like this. So I'm going to use mattress stitch in one side. So I'm gonna mattress stitch on this side, and each mattress stitch I'm gonna use 2 rows. So 2 rows for 1 stitch of the square. That's what it worked for me here, okay? And it worked really perfect, so I'm just repeating the same thing. So 2 rows to each one of the stitches you have on your grain, okay? And I'm gonna add a little image of the mattress stitch so you guys know. So start right on the beginning there, on the first 2 rows, and always in that same stitch here, that same stitch. And then you're gonna go from one side to the other. Let me see how I did here. So I'm stitching always in the second loop, the inside loop of my square, okay? And then 2 on the other side. And the inside loop. If 2 is a bit too much for you of the knitting, just make 1. For me it was perfect. And then when you finish one side, make sure here in the middle you have the same number of rows. So I actually counted 30, exactly 30 rows here. So I counted 30 here, and then I placed a marker. And on this side, I'm going to start right there. Okay, so I'm going to seam from here to here. And then my next step, so before I seam the sleeves, I'm going to do the ribbing on the bottom and do the ribbing on the neck so the work's not too heavy, okay? And then the last thing I'm going to do is actually seam the sleeves on the sides here, okay? Now here on the bottom, what I did was attach one yarn to the bottom of it, and then I'm going to work through every one of the knitted loops to just cast off the stitches. I did that last because I wasn't sure if I was going to make a crochet ribbing or a knitted ribbing, and I decided to make a crochet ribbing just because it already has crochet in it. So if you don't know how to knit, you don't really need to know how to knit, because to make the panels at the machine on the machines you don't really need to know how to knit. So That's what I'm doing. 1 crochet stitch to every knitted stitch that I have on the bottom, and then after that I'm going to just remove that, remove the waste yarn. So what I did was I tried on myself, and let me show you, that's what I have now. It fits my head perfectly here, and I'm going to make the ribbing here after, okay? I decided to make the ribbing here first. And so that's why I'm just getting rid of the waste yarn here on both sides, okay? So I can start making the ribbing. Okay, guys, so this is where I'm at now. Okay, I don't think I said before, and I might have forgot, but these panels here, each panel has 27 stitches, okay, and I'm making a size medium. So 27 stitches, 180 rows, because it goes all the way around and to the other side, okay. I explained before how to calculate that. And so I seamed both sides here and here, and I started seaming here, just the beginning of it, because I'm not gonna put the sleeves right now. Just these are the sleeves, by the way. I think it's a beautiful design. Anyway, I got inspired by Pinterest again, and I'm gonna show you the photo right here of the design. And I wanted to make that on my Centro machine, so all this was made on the Centro machine. Okay, if you want to know how to make panels, etc., it's on my playlist, the basics, okay? And all the other videos I explain as well, the basics of how to make these panels. That's why right now I'm just making the seaming and the construction of this sweater. So right now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add this white row here of double crochets, and after that, because this is a bit too wide, I want to close this a bit with the ribbing. And so I'm going to make the ribbing around this wide, around 10 to 12 stitches down, and I'm going to skip a few stitches here so I can get a little smaller ribbing, okay? After that, what I'm doing is making the ribbing here, okay? And then after I finish the ribbing here, because I don't want the weight of the sleeves, I'm going to then bind off the stitches while I seam it on the sides, okay? So these are next steps. So let's get into it. What I'm doing here is started with a slip stitch and 2 chains. So I'm making 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and I'm skipping 1 underneath. Every 3 double crochets I skip 1, even on the crochet part, okay? That way this is gonna be a little less wider when I start making my ribbing, okay? So I'm going to skip 1 stitch here and make 1, 2, and 3 double crochets, and then I'm going to skip 1 again. So I'm going to do this the whole way, and then I'm going to start my crochet ribbing. I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's say on this long, okay? 12 chains that I made. I'm going to skip 2 here and make my first half double crochet in that 3rd chain from the hook. Okay, here in this last one, and then I'm going to skip this next one, and I'm going to single crochet 1, single crochet 2, single crochet 3 here on the other side before I turn, just because I want this to be much less wide than what it is still, okay? And then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the back chain instead, just so I make that ribbing effect. So I'm going to put the hook through the back loop there and make half double crochet. So through the back loop, you can see here, and through the back loop, make sure you count and always have the same number of stitches, because sometimes this can get confusing. And then I'm going to turn and work on the back loop of this one again. Okay, so that's what I'm doing for this ribbing. And always keeping the same number of stitches here. But because I'm doing it in black, I'm going to finish it all in black now. After I finish the bottom ribbing, anyway, here it is, that's the bottom ribbing. As you can see, it's a bit smaller than the size of the sweater, and that's why I wanted it to be. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this yarn and hide it on the back, and then I'm going to make a full row with the white. Okay, so slip knot there. And we're gonna make this row just to make this bit here round, so after that I can make the same ribbing, exact same ribbing that I made underneath. Okay, so to make this round, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a double crochet row, put the yarn through any of the stitches you have on the bottom, and then work 2 chains. And make 1 double crochet in each double crochet of these on the granny square, all the way to reach this corner here. And then what you're gonna do is we're gonna start working on the knitted panel. And so to do that, I'm going to work right on this first row here, the very first row stitch that I have, okay? Very first stitch, and I'm going to work on the corner here. Okay, I'll be skipping 1 row and then working always on the next row. So I'm going to have one stitch every second row of my knitting, okay? Anyway, this is what I'm going to be doing the whole way. So see, like it's round now, it's not a square anymore. And then after this row, I'll be making the same ribbing that I made on the bottom. So I finished here on the second chain from the beginning. And now I'm going to start another row to make the ribbing with the black only. And I'm gonna make as long as I want it to be. I'm thinking like this big, as big as the other one. Let me see. You can always do that, you know, get the ribbing from the bottom, put on I think this is all right, this size for the ribbing, the neck ribbing. And that's the same size I have now. So I'm just gonna be making that same ribbing all around it. So this is how our row looks like. And I started the ribbing here. Okay, I'm making the ribbing a little, just a little, 1 stitch smaller actually than the bottom ribbing, okay? So I finished the ribbing here. That's what it looks like. I wanted a short ribbing because I don't really like the neck too high, but if you want it longer or even even layer it like that, you can, you know, make double if you want. Same with the bottom ribbing as well. This long, I think I'm gonna open mine because I think it's a bit too short, so you can make it longer as well. Okay, I'm gonna share here, there's a photo of it longer, of the pattern that I use as inspo. And so right after I finished this ribbing here, what I did was I finished seaming with the mattress stitch all the way up where I had my markers for the arms. So what I did was you just place this in front of your body after all the ribbing is finished, and then place a marker here where you want your sleeves to go, or either just put the sleeve right in front of your work and see how much space the sleeve needs from the body of your work. Okay, and we're gonna be working both stitches, both the graft stitch, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm gonna put on an image here for you guys to see which stitch that I used to join this. Okay, already showed you how to join the sleeves, and for the sleeves I had to decrease a few rows. Okay, so I had 80 and ended up making with 66 rows only, and that's because this the shoulder, it's a little longer because we made a straight panel. It's a little wider than your shoulder, really, and so this drops a bit down on top of your arm, and because of that I had to, you know, take a few rows off each sleeve because it was way too long for me. Okay, so after this, what I made was made for a friend because she liked so much, and I'm just gonna quickly explain how I made the extra large. Okay, this could be, yeah, this fits an extra large person. So I made 3 grannies for the front because she needs more, you know, more length for her body, and 3 on the back. Okay, ribbing is the same. Here I used a panel, I made a panel with 33 stitches, and because I had more grannies, I had 1 more on each side, I had to make the panels longer as well. They are 250 rows longer, and also I had to make the height for the shoulder a little longer as well. I have 40 stitches here for the shoulder part. Okay, the sleeves I made the same 66 rows because her arms were shorter than mine actually, so it's about, you know, measuring yourself and see what you need. But I'm going to put the exact lengths and proportions on a table on the pattern. And another thing that I did was, because she tried on herself and it wasn't wide enough, so I made a few rows of double crochet underneath the arm right next to the panel. Okay, and then same thing, placed a marker here to see where I wanted the sleeves to go, and joined the sleeves on the bottom here with the double crochets. And this is just because if I didn't make double crochets here, this shoulder would actually be a little too long if I added more stitches than 33 here. Okay, it's already gonna be a little long, so yeah, that's it. That's the changes that I made for an extra large here. Okay,